We are back now in the News Center with the News Nation political contributor Denise Kitchum and also Nick Cordelai-Corte. Welcome back to both of you. It's good to see you both again. I think one time, or at least one time today, we should spend a little bit of time talking about our veterans, the 250th anniversary. I'm going to play a clip here from Secretary Doug Collins, who's on our morning show, Morning in America, and then we could talk about that aspect of it on the other side. Here he is.
It's about people who go to service and the wounds that they do bear coming home, but that they continue to fight for it and help other people. I think for this 250th, I just remind people that you wouldn't have that 250th candle on the cake without the veterans who raised their right hand and said, hey, we're willing to go and do for this country, all the way back to the start where they said, hey, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness is worth fighting and even dying for if need be.
Denise, to you first, a word on American veterans.
Well, yes and amen. I come from a huge military family. My grandfather was a two-star general who fought against communism, actually for Taiwan, for the Republic of China, like not for America, but fought for the principles that we hold dear. And my father was an enlisted airman at Travis Air Force Base, approximately 10 miles down the road from where I'm sitting right now and where I was born. Our whole lives revolve around the military. I have so many cousins that are serving, so many friends in our very military town. I'm so proud of our veterans who are such selfless people. In spite of all the fighting that we might do about politics, they are committed to one thing and one thing alone, and that is defending our freedom and following the orders of the commander-in-chief, no matter who they are. And I'm so, so grateful for them.
Nick Cordelai, your thoughts? America, of course, at war, trying to get out of a war at this point in Iran as we celebrate our 250th.
Yeah, I'm thinking a lot about the servicemen and women that are serving, not just in Iran, but in hotspots around the world, a world that has become more destabilized, not less. And, you know, it's also worth noting that, you know, we have an obligation to take care of our veterans when they come home. And so when we look at the challenges that we see across the country, when it comes to homelessness, for example, we know that there's a significant population of the unhoused that are also veterans. And so, you know, we should be doing everything we can to support them, everything we can to make sure that we are cutting that bureaucracy. It's interesting when you look at some of the DOGE cuts that were made to different agencies, you know, still there's so much that still needs to be done in Veterans Affairs to make sure that our veterans are getting the benefits that they have earned and the resources that they need for serving our country so honorably.
Denise, your thoughts on that and how we take care of our veterans?
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously I agree. I mean, our veterans should never be homeless. In other countries, veterans are never homeless, but that is the consequence of making bad policy decisions. Like in my home state of California, and I believe I think he's in California as well. You know, we've seen decisions made by our Democratic policymakers, and I hate to be political on a day that shouldn't be, but that's the reality. Is we live in a state run by Democrats, a supermajority of Democrats for over a decade, and we have the highest homeless numbers of any state in America. That's a decision, that's a policy decision to prioritize other things over doing the very thing that me and people like me agree with, which is we should put our veterans front and center. I 100% agree. Amen.
Yeah. Speaking of veterans,
actually, the number of unhoused folks in Los Angeles is going down.
Yeah,
I said actually the number of unhoused folks in Los Angeles has actually gone down and has bucked the trend that we've seen across the nation. But so this idea that it's policy that is driving homelessness, yes, we should look at policy. We should make reforms to policy, but Denise, as you know, it's more complicated than that. It's more layered than that.
It's a decision.
And when we talk about our military veterans, there's so much more that the federal Department of Veterans Affairs can do to support them. And so I hope to all that are listening, I hope on America's 250, they see this as an opportunity to do more, not less.
Me too.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I was just pointing out to Glenn Ignazio, a veteran himself, a good friend of the show, is coming on. We'll talk about some of this with him, but also about the current military actions overseas. Just a minute or two with you folks on politics before we wrap this up. You may have heard Libby reporting on the president announcing some pardons today. Also hanging over this president are questions about his own wealth and how much he's added to it. since taking office for a second time. Axios has the headline that Democrats are plotting subpoenas and a subpoena storm over what they call the $2 billion gold rush that the president has seen. So it does bring up kind of a post-midterm environment, Denise, and how things might change if Democrats are in control of the Congress. What do you think?
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. Listen, I don't think President Trump or anyone should be above the law. If he has broken laws, earning the money that he says he's earned fairly, then I expect him to be treated as any other American would. I'm not going to stand on the side of anyone who says that they should earn money lawlessly. But I want to talk directly to my friends, both Democrat and Republican in Congress right now, when I say, great, do your job, investigate, but maybe just start by fixing your own issues first. Maybe stop taking paychecks when your staff and all government workers go through shutdowns. Maybe stop allowing, members to sit on committees overseeing industries where they or their spouses hold sizable stock options. And maybe stop flying private jets and having 3 homes as you rail against the oligarchy. Shout out to Bernie. And maybe finally pass the ban on insider trading that you've bandied about since 2005. You just did a PR effort with no enforcement. Maybe fix your own house.
I don't know. All of those suggestions might have merit. I do think at the same time, especially this crypto stuff is going to raise a lot of questions for this president and his administration and those close to him to answer. And I think a lot of those questions will come up more so when we get beyond the midterms, depending on the power shift.
The governing principle of this president has been do as I say, not as I do. And, no better occasion than this inflection point in American history to do better, to demonstrate what it looks like to operate more ethically when you have crypto industry folks, AI industry folks who have business pending before the federal government for anybody in Trump's orbit, including his family, including him, to benefit from any information that they have in advance. It's wrong. Let's call it what it is. There's a reason why 9 of the past 12 presidents, put their resources, put their money into blind trust. There's a reason why so many other presidents adhere to the domestic emoluments clause. I would encourage folks to Google Article 2, Section 1, Clause 7 of the Domestic Emoluments Clause, which prevents the president from receiving any profits or gain from the federal government or any U.S. state other than a fixed salary. There are serious implications when the Emoluments Clause is violated or the appearance of the Emoluments Clause being violated. And so I think Congress shouldn't have to wait until after November. Congress right now should be investigating any allegations of this president, anybody in his administration, violating either the domestic or foreign emoluments clause, not riding on the Qatari gifted Air Force One, or having foreign folks stay in Mar-a-Lago. I mean, the hypocrisy abounds.
The other thing to keep in mind with all of this, we're going to leave it here for now. Denise, thank you. Nicola, thank you. Is even more so the president's, the people surrounding the president, because of what the Supreme Court had to say on immunity. Remember, those people do not have the same type of immunity as a president would have. So that's another thing to keep in mind with that story. This 4th of July weekend is making history for more than just being the 250th birthday of the country.